I was called out in front of the entire company. I missed my chance. Literally the entrance. I was lost. To avoid this mistake. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about everything that I did wrong my first year dancing with a professional company. I made tons of mistakes that first year and I definitely learned a lot of lessons from them, so if you guys can implement the lessons that I had to struggle through, I think it'll really help you out and help you further your career a little bit faster. So let's get started. So at the company that I was with, it was well over 100 people. It was really big if you include the main company, the apprentices, the studio company, and then the trainees, and I was a trainee. There was about between 30 and 35 of us, and there was probably around 25 studio company, just a handful of apprentices, and then the main company. So I was at the very bottom. The main thing that you need to remember if you're going into a pretty big company as well is that you are going to have to fight to be noticed. And it's not even to the fault of the teachers or anything, it's just if you're looking at that many people every day, you're just not going to be able to see everyone. It's pretty much impossible to give every single person the same amount of attention. You want to make sure that anytime you're noticeable and set apart from other people, that it's for a good reason and not a bad one. So that's where I made my first mistake. This happened my first year as a trainee with the company. We were all in rehearsals together for a big show, and we were learning a core piece that was sort of similar to swan core, if you guys have ever done that, in that we came out in these lines that went like that, and then there was moments where we had to like do-si-do around each other and everything. And I had picked a person to learn very early on in the process. Basically the trainees were just put into that rehearsal and given free reign. It was like you got what you put in. So I had picked a person, I learned the part, I thought I knew it. And then one day, several weeks into the process, they were like, hey, let's see some people that we haven't seen yet. So they kind of lined us all up to figure out who knew what, and then they picked people out of the line to go. And I was one of the people that they picked. And that snake part is right at the beginning of the dance. It's literally the entrance. It's what gets everybody on stage, and you have to really make sure that you're keeping track of the number of sets that you're doing, of the steps, otherwise you'll just get totally lost. And the person in front of me had also never gone before, and she went one spot too far. But then she kind of realized what she did, and the moment that she realized was when we were supposed to start doing the do-si-do, but since she had moved over one, I was lost and I didn't know it well enough to get back on track, and then I ended up in the wrong spot. I ended up traveling in the wrong direction. She did make a mistake too, but hers was salvageable and she fixed it in the moment. I could not. I did not. They literally had to stop the entire run through because of me. This literally still makes me cringe. So we stopped the whole run. I was called out in front of the entire company, like over 100 people. I wanted to crawl into a rock and die. They lectured us about how if we say that we know a part, we need to make sure we know it front to back. And I, honest to God, thought I did. But it wasn't until I actually got to run it in the full space that I realized I didn't. And my advice to you in order to make that not happen is the one thing that I never did. I was always marking in the back. I was paying attention to marks and everything, but I never did it full out until I was doing it in front of the director. And it went very poorly. You're not going to know it as well as you think you do until you run it full out. So find some friends, bring all your trainee friends together, bring all your second cast friends together, find an open studio, even if you have to stay a couple minutes late, and just run it through and make sure you know it, because you want to be the one that they know knows it well enough that they could throw you in and they wouldn't have to worry about you. The second mistake I made was that I wasn't listening as well as I thought I was, and this came about during Nutcracker. The trainees were all given spots to learn in flowers, or we just had to pick a spot to learn. Again, it was one of those situations where we got to rehearse with the company, but we had to take it into our own hands. We got what we put into it. So this was my second year there. I had picked the same spot in flowers to learn both years. And there are a few things that I am certain in this life, but one of them is every single mark that my girl in flowers does. Every single point that she stands on, every single count, like I knew it and I was so ready to jump in. And it happened that they were throwing new people in. Anyone who was absent, anyone who was injured, they were just putting new people in, and they called my person's name and I misheard them and I didn't get to go, and I didn't end up in flowers. I didn't end up doing it, and I was kicking myself for days because I was like, I missed my chance. And the person that they put in didn't even really know it. Like they were just like, oh, like I can give it a shot if nobody else can do it. So always, always, always be listening to your directors, be making eye contact, be listening to every single word that they say. If you don't understand something, you best ask your friend standing next to you, be like, oh my gosh, did they call this person? Like, what's going on? Make sure you know. It'll really help you out, I promise. The third mistake that I made as a trainee with that company in my first year was that I didn't jump on every single opportunity to be seen dancing alongside the main company. And again, this happened during Nutcracker. We were always put into snow and flowers rehearsals, but all of the divertissement, we kind of picked and choose. You could go or you could not go. And at the time, my thought process was, well, they're not putting me into snow or flowers. They're definitely not going to put me into Spanish. I don't need to go and learn it. But then I had just a couple friends that really put in the extra effort and went to every single rehearsal. And those were the people that the directors loved. Those are the people that got moved up. They got casted better in our trainee shows and in the trainee and studio company shows. It just shows a lot about your work ethic and how much you're willing to put in. I would really, really recommend any rehearsal that is optional, make sure you're there. So the fourth mistake that I made was that I let my fear of messing up in front of the directors hold me back. And this kind of stemmed from that moment in the first couple months with the company when I totally screwed up and didn't know my stuff. From that point on, I always had that thought in the back of my mind that's like, I think I know this, but I don't want to make that mistake again. And that in itself is a mistake. This happened to me a lot because our main artistic director actually taught our class once a week-ish, and in those moments it was like I had already fallen on my face once before. I was so scared of leaving another poor impression that I just wanted to blend in, and you know what? I succeeded. And that's not what you want to do. You want to stand out, and you definitely want to stand out for the right reasons, but never ever let your fear of falling on your face hold you back from stepping up. As long as you're pushing yourself and doing the best that you can, they are going to see that and they are going to appreciate that. So never try and blend in. Always, always, always put your best effort in. If you can stand in the front, do it. Don't be the annoying person that like elbows people out of the way so that you can get to the front line. But if there's a spot open in the front line, take it. If there's an open spot in the core piece and they need someone to fill it and you know it, don't stay quiet just because you're afraid that you could mess up a part. They're going to appreciate the fact that you were willing to jump in. Maybe don't throw off the entire run, but you know, there are moments when maybe you originally learned the other side, so you turn the wrong direction. Things like that, at least in my experience. I don't know how your directors are, but in my experience, they're going to appreciate more the fact that you were willing to jump in, that you were willing to try something new and put in effort and step up when other people weren't. They're going to appreciate that, even if you make a couple mistakes along the way. So the fifth mistake I made is kind of specific, and I don't know how it is at other companies, so you might have to kind of feel out the lay of the land before you go about this, but I was always very afraid to talk to my directors personally, like one-on-one, because I was afraid I was going to come across as problematic. And there were times when I wasn't sure what I needed to be doing differently. Maybe I was getting like a correction a lot from a certain teacher and I didn't understand it or something like that. Or even when I wasn't getting casted, I wouldn't say that you need to like go and talk to the director every time that happens. Like absolutely not. But even right off the bat at the beginning of the season, I feel like a lot of directors appreciate that open communication of dancers coming to them and being like, hey, I want to be what you're looking for, so tell me exactly what I need to do to get there. I feel like they actually appreciate that, and I was always afraid to talk to them about it. And maybe if you're consistently not getting casted and you don't know why, I wouldn't be afraid to be like, hey, I would just love to know what I can be working on what I can do differently, how I can push harder, and in what areas I need to improve so that next time I'm the person you want to go to and I'm the person that you want to put on stage. That's a very, very sticky thing to do, and it's very hard to word it in a way that isn't going to come across as you just questioning their casting choices, which you definitely shouldn't do. Don't go crying to your directors every time you're not casted, because that's not going to get you anywhere. But just make sure that you're pushing, you're doing your best every single day, and if nothing changes, don't be too afraid to ask what you can improve on and talk to them one-on-one. Just make sure that you word it in a way that they know you're not questioning the choices that they've made. So the sixth mistake that I made was that I allowed casting to sort of dictate the amount of confidence that I had in my dancing. And guys, please don't do this. Different choreographers look for different qualities in the dancers that they use in their choreography. Sometimes yours is different, and that doesn't mean that yours is worse, but you might not get the part because of it. I'm sure that you've all heard this before, but directors are very, very often looking for very specific things, very specific people to fill different roles. It's similar to like Broadway theater, when you can go to audition after audition after audition, but if you're not exactly what they're looking for, you're not going to get casted. And it doesn't mean that you're not talented, it just means that you're not meant for that specific part in the way that they're setting it. And this happens all the time in ballet too. And there was always shorter casts and taller casts, so maybe you knew the spot, but it was the shorter cast, so they didn't put you in. And I'm not saying that like I was a fantastic dancer and they only didn't cast me because of this, because I definitely know that I have things that I need to work on and things that I needed to change, and I knew that at the time as well. But every single time I wasn't casted, I sort of took it as a personal attack. And because of that, my self-esteem just got lower and lower with every show that I wasn't getting good roles in. And that's a horrible, horrible way of looking at it. It definitely brought my spirits down, and it made me very pessimistic. Instead of just being grateful for the opportunity to dance, being grateful to be in the studio, I had these huge open studios that I got to dance in every day. I got to be with my friends every day. I was learning every single role. I was dancing a ton, and yet I was still upset and I was still feeling down on myself just because I wasn't put in this specific role that I really wanted. And I feel like if I had kind of let go of that and acknowledged the fact that maybe they just were looking for something else, I would have found more joy in my dancing at the time if I had just not found my confidence in other people's opinions of me. Even if you're not confident in how you're dancing, be confident in the work that you're putting in your work ethic, and the fact that you are giving it your all every day. I'm sure that you guys have watched dancers that have very little confidence before, and you can tell, you can see it in the way that they move, that they are not confident in what they're doing. And I'm sure that that didn't help my case in the future when those same teachers were casting again. Basically what I ended up doing was telling myself day after day that I didn't deserve things, that I wasn't good enough. I was actually just telling some of my students about this the other day, but the things that you tell yourself on a daily basis, even if you're saying them as a joke, definitely kind of seep into the way that you actually think about yourself. Like if you're dancing and you do something and it wasn't your best and you go, oh my gosh, I suck. Like if you keep telling yourself that every day, even when you don't really believe it, you're going to start to. Our words have so much power. We need to make sure that we're not speaking to ourselves in a way that we wouldn't talk to another person, even if it's just in your head, because it will affect you over time. So just to kind of wrap everything up, the 6 lessons that you can learn from this are: 1, know your choreography and make sure you run it in a full space. 2, make sure that you're listening to every single word that comes out of your director's mouths, even if you feel like it's not going to pertain to you. Pay attention anyway. 3, anytime you have the opportunity to dance alongside the main company, or really just any opportunity to be seen by your directors, take it. 4, never allow yourself to hold back for fear of messing up. Always give it your all and always push to be seen. Because if you want to blend in, you'll do it. And 6, never allow casting or other people's opinions of you and your dancing affect how you view yourself and affect your own confidence, because you need to be able to find that without other people's affirmations. I wish I could just kind of go back and tell myself, as long as you're doing your best, it's okay, you'll get there, it's fine. And that's why I'm telling you guys. So anyway, that is it, guys. I really hope that this video was helpful for you. I really hope that you take some of these lessons to heart, because I promise you they were not fun lessons to learn. So if you can learn them without actually going through them, you'll be better off for it, trust me. I'm so sorry about the lighting in this video, but when I turned on the camera, there was not a cloud in the sky, and then the second I hit play, they've just been coming past. There's only so much I can do. Your girl does not have professional lights. We're just working with the sun here, and today the sun is not working with me. But if you guys have any funny or cringy stories like mine, I definitely want to hear them. Go ahead and shoot them down in the comments. Now the sun comes out. Anyway, go ahead and like this video if you enjoyed it, if you found it helpful, and subscribe if you want to see more dance related videos like this one. I'm putting out a new one every Monday. My last one was about what to do when you start losing motivation for dance in quarantine. So if that's something that you think would be helpful for you or interesting, go ahead and check that video out. But otherwise, I will see you guys next Monday. I hope you have a fantastic day. Sun, where are you? Things that you say, even if they're, oh no. This is getting really annoying. This just got so dark. Any second now. Any second now.